The first time I ever told a story on stage was about 2.5 years ago at an event called Moth Up Toronto, which is now called Raconteurs. A friend told me about the event, and the theme was love and sex, and she said, "You like those things, you should tell a story," and so I did, and now I'm a storyteller. And I've gone back, oh my God, this is so fast. Okay, and then, so I kept going back, I kept getting invitations to tell stories. It was really incredible and exciting, and I had no idea that I was becoming a storytelling performing artist, and then I totally got my street cred at TEDx OCAD U. You can see, because I'm like a total pro with a microphone. Shit. Oh my God, me and a microphone. You're just gonna need to give me a second. This is a new format for me. Right, so as you can see, me and the microphone have a special synergy that creates magic and requires a lot of artistic forethought. But the truth is, I really did become a performance artist and a storytelling artist without really knowing that that was happening and without knowing that that was an actual art form that I was becoming a part of in the city of Toronto. And so a lot of people ask me after my incredible displays like this one, how do you do that? How do you get up on stage and tell stories? Do you rehearse a lot? And my friend Maya, who's here tonight, is my muse for tonight's brilliant talk, because she said, I see people ask you all the time how you do that, so you need to tell the people how you do it. So process versus practice is something I really thought about in preparation for tonight, because I'm not somebody who rehearses. I don't write things out. I don't rehearse them. I'm not very organized, as you might be able to tell. And so I thought I would really try and focus on my process as a storyteller, because I think it will help me develop my practice. Step one, when I hear about a theme for a show, I scan my entire life history and the most emotional moments, which isn't hard to do. And I think about it while I'm doing everything else, basically. Step two, see, now I'm ready for step two, and it's not coming. PechaKucha is so much harder than storytelling, for the record. Step two. Have other people on the job. I call all of my friends and I ask them, the theme is love and sex. Tell me all of the funny, most embarrassing things that have happened to me in my life, so that I can repeat it back into a microphone for my super professional storytelling practice, which is actually a really fun thing to do, because friends then recount to me the sort of highlights and lowlights of my life that I then turn into art. Step three, forget about the show entirely and carry on with daily activities, which is generally what happens. I have a job. I'm like a person who works and things, and I don't just drink scotch and talk into a microphone. So I also think that that's important, because I need to forget about things for a minute so that I can carry on with life. Step four, day of the show. Remember, you have a show. Promote it on the internet. Clean house, get dressed like a lady. I work from home, so I'm often in my pajamas and like a toque, so I have to tune up a little bit. I put on makeup also to look like a lady, and as I'm doing all of these things, I'm telling the story to myself throughout the day. Out loud, I get very distracted, so I get 3 lines in, and then something sparkly happens and I forget about it. So I move to step 5, where I am on my way to the show, and I usually change my mind about it. I'm like, no, I don't like that idea, that wasn't right. I might call another friend, run another idea by them, change my mind on the way to the show. Oh, that's an optional step, by the way. It doesn't always happen. Step 6, actually, so these are obviously all of my personal neuroses that are part of the way that I do this kind of performance art, but step 6 is that I surrender to the night, which I actually think applies to anybody doing any kind of storytelling, especially if it's on stage. Because what happens at storytelling nights, where people are just telling true events that have happened to them, and with the kind of storytelling that I do, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna skip that one. It's a real privilege to be in the audience and hear other people tell you true things about themselves. It's very humbling, and so I tend not to think about myself or my process or my story at all when I'm in the audience, and I just listen, and sometimes I get an inspiration and change my mind again. Right, so apparently practice is really helpful, which I don't like doing, as you can see, which is why it says barf. It's a real challenge for me to practice and rehearse, and I really don't like it, because I feel like it takes away some of the spontaneity that happens in a moment with me and a microphone. That's what that slide was before earlier, is that some really embarrassing things happen when I'm up here sometimes, and that's often the most vulnerable, which is where I get the most connection, which is what I think is so powerful about storytelling. So I'm resistant to practice, but practice isn't always about practicing. You can take that one home with you if you want. For me, it means that all of those steps that I told you about before, that is me practicing. I realized as I was doing this talk and preparing for tonight that I have been developing my own storytelling practice, even if it isn't very clean or helpful. So the mundane is hilarious, and heartbreaking is something that I need to remember all the time, and something that I tell other people when they're asking me, how do I tell a good story? It's that we have to become these real astute observers, that tiny moments in our daily lives are actually the ones that can make for the most interesting and intricate details to provide a phenomenal story. Right, become a details obsessed ninja, which I think is a helpful tool as well for any stories. I just got an astronomical phone bill recently because of like a long distance. It was like such a big mistake, but it will make for a really great story on stage, which I'm super embarrassed about. What also happens when I'm preparing for shows and when I'm sitting in an audience and being part of the community of storytelling in Toronto also brings me other ideas all the time. So when I'm doing my day job or I'm putting on my makeup, sometimes I'll have other ideas for shows. And my most recent one was like a blog that I want to write called Shit I'd Like to Say to My Friends' Boyfriends. Just like a side idea that comes up. So there's like Post-its all over my workspace that are about other ideas, most of them that don't get action, but some of them that will maybe make it into an evening-length storytelling performance of basically a one-woman show that I'm working on. I'm very grateful to the Ontario Arts Council because they recently just gave me a grant to do things like this. So that show is called A Lover Improper, and I am going to look back at these slides and develop a practice and a discipline so that I can actually write that show and give back in the way that I would really like to, with integrity. So yeah, that's a little reminder about the details. You just have to really practice noticing what's around you and have the fear that you will not totally bomb, because even if you do, that'll be a great story for next time. That's it. Thank you.